lot of that was I had to work through, I guess, my own standards of what is good in my life and what I want in my life, as opposed to external standards of what you should be doing, right? Those shoulds that cause way more problems than are ever helpful.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited to be back here with you, giving you new content, new episode. There has been so much happening, and I really appreciate your patience while I got the website up and running and the rebrand all sorted out. There's been lots of fun stuff happening here at the podcast. First of all, we have a new dedicated Instagram page at Peak Pyro Podcast. I'm sure many of you have already found us over there. And if you haven't, come on over and join the conversation, join the community. We'd love to have you there. While the podcast has been on hiatus, I also created a unique website that's the new home for the podcast. Over on peak-pyro.com, you can find the absolute best details about the podcast, including any discount codes that guests may have given us. Those will be in the show notes. I want to hear from you. So on the website, I've added a couple of forms. One where you can submit your guest ideas. And for those of you who decide to join our mailing list, you will get advance notice of upcoming guests so that you can get your questions in for them before we record. And last, and certainly not least, I'm sure the eagle-eyed among you have noticed already, we have merch. All different kinds of t-shirts, sweatshirts, and even a coffee mug. It's super comfy. Features the logo for Peak Pyrography. And this week over on Instagram, I'm giving away a piece of that merch. So head over to Peak Pyro Podcast and get yourself entered. And that is enough for right now on podcast news. There has been, like I said, a lot happening. Now for the guest that you've been waiting so long and so patiently for. Today's guest is Meghan Robertson of Honeybeezigns. I loved talking with Meghan. From her art to her social media imagery to her general presence, there's a calm and collected energy that exudes from her. I loved hearing about her view of life and her experience with people and social media. It was an incredible reminder that we get to choose what we see online, and it's not always up to the algorithm. There are great opportunities that exist out there to find support when we tailor our online presence to be exactly what we need it to be. Now from Meghan, from wood burning to tea breaks to momming and everything in between, I was truly inspired by Meghan, and I think you will be too. Just tune in now and hear what she's got to say. Hi Meghan, welcome on Peak Pyrography. I'm thrilled to have you here today.
Well, thanks for having me, friend.
Where are you joining us from today?
I am on the currently sunny west coast of Canada, Vancouver Island. I've lived here since I was, well, on the west coast since I was born, but on the island since I was 5. So I pretty much firmly claim island, identity here in so many ways. But yeah, Vancouver Island.
You've got that basically native.
Yeah, I'm
native
that.
to
West
the
Coast,
island.
100%, and then Vancouver Island, pretty darn close.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. You are online at Honeybeezigns.
Yeah.
So people can find you on Instagram at Honeybeezigns, or you've got honeybeezigns.com.
Yeah, so I've got the
.ca.
website, Facebook and Instagram are the same handle. TikTok is as well, but I suck at TikTok. So, you can, that'd be helpful. People wanted to find me there because that is not going as well as the other ones. But yeah, I'm pretty consistently Honeybeezigns at all the different places.
That's great. I follow you on Instagram and I love your stuff. I love your style.
Oh, thanks.
Especially when I'm scrolling through my feed and I get to your picture, I always know that it's yours. And there's always such a sense of calm about it.
Oh, it means a lot. No, I hear that actually pretty consistently, which is really nice. That there is, I guess just some continuity in how I come across out there. So that's a really nice thing.
Yeah. How long have you been wood burning?
It feels like forever, but really hasn't been, I guess, when you look at actual years passing. I started when my youngest was probably about 6 months, and he will be 5 in August. So yeah, about 4.5 years or so.
That's great. That's great. And what keeps you coming back to it?
Well, I've always liked to burn things, which makes me sound like a bit of a psycho. But
I think all pyros are
Right?
that
We all
way.
have that inner, I like to burn things drive. There's just something about it. I've always, camping with fire and my dad and, all that stuff. And there's just something super satisfying about burning things and then you make art out of it. So, yeah, everything slows down because as you know, it's a very slow art form. And so it's
Yeah.
a really nice just overall rhythm balance to my life because my life is crazy and chaos for the most part. Not bad, but just busy. And so
Yeah.
when I
You've got 4 kids and
yeah, the oldest is 9, the middle 2 are 6, and then the baby, as I said, is almost 5. I guess halfway to 5. And so yeah, it's just life is busy. And so when I sit down to burn, literally everything just stops and slows down. So it's a really good rhythm balance to my life.
yeah, I'm sure there's a lot to balance there.
Yeah, yeah. Many, many moving parts at like most of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, and so where did Honeybeezigns come from?
Well, I had little nicknames for all my kiddos. So my oldest is my little bug. My second, because the twins are 12 minutes apart, and the older twin holds strongly to those 12 minutes. Those are very important 12 minutes for
They're
him.
very important.
Very
Yes.
important. He's my little cricket, and then my little girl is my little honeybee. So honeybee designs mush together, Honeybeezigns.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I I call my oldest Bug, and my second one is Bee.
Oh,
So I
nice. So
totally
you
get
get
it.
that then. There's something about, yeah, those little nicknames. Hey, it's super cute.
Yeah, absolutely. What kinds of pieces do you like to burn?
Anything nature. I mean, I do a lot of nature inspired pieces. So I love whales are definitely like my favorite thing. Whales will show up a lot. I do a lot of pet portraits. I wouldn't say that they're my favorite thing that if I want to, if I'm creating something for me, I wouldn't necessarily sit down and do a pet portrait. But I do really love doing them because each pet is different and there's usually such a significant emotional component to each piece too. So it's a really honoring experience to be able to make a piece of art that has so much significance to someone. So I love the process of pet portraits, but I think for like my pure, I guess, selfish oriented creative inspiration usually comes from nature, West Coasty things. I'll pretty much fall into that category pretty stereotypically and happily too, because I love all the West Coast things.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there. I hear. I haven't made it there, but my husband's from the area.
Oh, is he? Whereabouts is he from?
He grew up on Vashon Island,
Oh, neat. Very cool. Yeah, it's
so not
lovely
too
all along
far.
yeah, yeah. It's lovely all along the coast, along the coastline there.
Do you have any favorite pieces that you've either that you still have around or that you've sold since making?
Yeah, I have a couple. I did see that in your little listy things. I was like, oh, okay, good. I'll pull those out because we're in the midst of packing right now for a move at the end of the month. So like things are all over the place, but this is actually accessible. So I've got a couple things actually.
Yeah, and let me get the view switched here. So if
Oh,
anyone's listening only, you can find us on YouTube and you can see some of these beautiful designs from Meghan.
I'll try and describe them too for the audio listeners. So I got these teacup cutouts from Woodpecker Crafts, and they do awesome cutouts. They do birch plywood, which is nice and thin. Which I should put this way, nice
Yeah.
and thin. Burp, burp. There you go. Nice and thin, and it burns and paints beautifully. Like I was shocked because I think when you think of plywood, you think of, I don't know, I made my chicken coop out of plywood, right? So you don't
Right.
necessarily
Yeah.
think art canvas.
Yeah. Is
But
the backside the same as what the front side was before you painted it?
yeah,
So it's just a nice flat,
yeah,
clean
just
piece of
super
wood.
smooth grain. So it burns beautifully, shades really easily. Paints like takes to paint super well. I'm just switching things around. So the two pieces here, they're both teacup, quite large. 12-inch cutouts that I did. It was actually part of a 3-part series. One is a bear and peonies. and a salmon, with kind of like a galaxy background, and then an orca with a sunflower and galaxy background. And then the third piece I did of this, it sold at one of my markets, was an owl. And I don't remember what the flower was. Something that went with an owl. And
Sure.
so
Yeah.
I thought that was a super, I like doing collections. So I love doing that. Um,
And what
some
kind of
other, this
paints did
is
you use for
a
that?
watercolor actually.
Oh, those the fill on that is so nice.
Yeah, well, these ones were the Artistro art supplies.
Okay.
And I really love their paints. They don't break the bank in terms of money investment in them. Like I think they're on the cheaper side, honestly. I think maybe I can't remember, like $30 or something. Um, for
For a pretty good size set.
Yeah, for a really good size set. This guy. Oh, just drop things. 48. So yeah, so you got 48. This is exactly what I used in there. So you get 48 palettes that last forever. I honestly don't even remember when I got that. But they're super vibrant. And they're the what are like the little, not the, I'm not called bricks, but they're like the hard, you know what I mean? Like the,
Yeah.
I don't know, the brick, the
I,
non-squishy tubey ones, right?
the they're like the pods or
Yeah, or
yeah, I
whatever
don't
they're
know the
called. I don't know. The ones that you don't squeeze out of a tube, whatever the word is for that, they're that. Um, I used to use the tube ones, but then I found out that I'm a horrible estimator of how much paint you actually need for things. And so I was ending up with way too much on my palette. And then like you can rehydrate it, but it just doesn't work the same. And then I was getting irritated. So I find that the little puck things work way better, just to make sure I'm not wasting unnecessary paint there. But they work great and last forever. Yeah, so those are my go-to for the colors on those for sure.
great. And then do you put some kind of a finish on that?
Yeah, so I'll spray acrylic and then a polyurethane brush on. And that just makes a nice little, you can see little like shine, but not too much. I stick away from the matte. I don't like that myself, the matte look. I'll usually do like the satin finish is my favorite, but I accidentally put on semi-gloss from time to time, and I have noticed a huge difference with the Varathane brand. But I usually prefer the satin finish if I can do.
And does that help to preserve the colors and preserve the burn from fading?
Yeah, it helps preserve. I mean, as long as you don't expose it to the sunlight, because as you know, sun's going to eat everything. But it just helps like from I don't know, like sticky fingers, and just just seals it in, protects it. If something whacks up against it, like it just keeps it safe. And I just think it just gives it that finished look to it, that I
Yeah.
prefer. And depending on like this doesn't the birch plywood really doesn't change much in terms of color when you finish it. So it'll go like a titch darker than this, but really not. So it'll maintain its lighter wood color, because some woods can definitely darken drastically when a finish is applied, but the birch plywood doesn't really shift too much.
Sure. Yeah. Those are so beautiful.
No, I'm trying.
Were you reaching for another one there?
Yeah, there's another one here that's a favorite that has been requested a few times, and that's this one here. I'm trying to get
Yeah, there we
there
go.
we go.
And that says, I
So
survived
they
because the
quote on
fire
there.
inside me burned brighter than the fire around
That's
me.
right. Yeah, and so I did this line drawing. So there's a line drawing of a female form on the ground with kind of fire watercolor coming up. So again, this is watercolor paint, the Artistro, kind of in like a galaxy sort of style, with a phoenix behind it and a torched background. I had one of my kiddos take a picture of me in that position. And then I just drew a line drawing based on that. Cause I'm like, I was trying to do it. My brain couldn't conceptualize what needed to happen to make that happen, like that line drawing workout. So I was like, I need you to take a picture of me. They're like, why? This is weird. I'm like, it's okay. What's going on, Mom? But they're pretty used to me getting them to do weird things. So
that's a really cool. I don't think I noticed the woman's form in the middle of it before when I was looking at it.
Oh yeah, hey, yeah, no,
It's one of those pieces where different parts of it jump out a little bit more
yeah,
every time you look at it.
yeah. No, it was a fun one. It's a fun one to do.
Yeah, so you've done that one a couple of times.
Yeah, I've had it requested a few times because usually, I mean, the quotes, I'm a big word nerd. And so I like to incorporate quotes too in the work that I do. And so the quote for sure definitely struck a number of people. So I've had it. I don't repeat a lot of designs, mostly because I get bored and I don't want to, but there's a few times that people have asked. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, this one I can do again. So I've done this one a few times.
Yeah, and you've recently been working on a number of cribbage boards.
Yeah, so that's been fun with my buddy Rob at Hilltop Wood. So he lives really close to me. And I used to and still do make my own crib boards. I just like drilling those holes, man, is the worst. Like it's so horrible. I just like that. Like I have a drill press, so at least that's better than like hand drilling because I've done that before too, and no one wants me to do that. It's a right mess. Like I did a crib board table for my dad for Father's Day, and it's like the running joke of like not only him but like my other wood guy friends who put the table together for me. They're like, Megan, were you drunk when you drilled this? Like, what is the matter with you? I'm like, I know the holes are like so uneven. It was just like a mess. So I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I did the drill press. It takes forever to drill all those holes, and so I stopped advertising that I made crib boards because I just hated making the boards. And my buddy who has like a million CNC machines, he proposed that like he could send some crib boards my way and I could add art to them and then I could sell them and we'd split it. And I'm like, ooh, now that is a plan that I can get behind. So we've done, I did that little set, that collection of 3. And then those sold. And then I've had a number of commission requests come out of those ones. So I'm just working my way through a number of those right now.
So in general, do you make your own wood pieces that you finish, get them to the point of...
I used to. And then like time wise, I'd rather spend the time doing the art on the wood and then just get wood from sources of people who that's what they do. So I'd much rather collaborate and use, just kind of work together with other suppliers that way. And then I can use my time doing the art, which is what I prefer to do.
Yeah. So where else do you get your wood from?
Walnut Hollow is a big one that I used to be able to get it at a more cost economical way by my parents have a spot down in Washington across the border. And so I'd have Walnut Hollow ship their stuff to their place in the States, and they would somehow get it to me in a super legal fashion. Anyway, and so that worked out much better because shipping to Canada is like a nightmare. And then there's all of the, our conversion and blah, 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 blah. But it's worth it when I, if I can take advantage of a Walnut Hollow sale or something, then I stock up. And so that's always a win. I love the woodpecker crafts. Aspen Rustic Creations is also, I love their coasters. Rustic Wood Designs can be good for their ornaments. Sometimes their coasters are super wonky. So I wouldn't recommend getting the bigger sizes if you're wanting to put something on it, because sometimes it's a little bit wobbly. But their ornaments are great. I get their ornaments. And I do buck up my own here too, because we get I'll do smaller rounds like cherry wood and it's just buck up is like with the chainsaw, buck, right? Chop it.
Sure, yeah.
You're like, what are you saying? What are these words? Oh, they'd probably translate that.
What are these Canadian words?
Are you saying weird things? You must be Canadian. It's a true story.
That's okay. I grew up north of Canada, so I...
Okay, perfect, cool. So you're weird too. I like it. So I will do, depending on, what if I have, I do actually. I got a friend of mine, because as soon as people find out you're a woodworker or do anything with wood, they're like, I've got wood for you. And so they'll like randomly drop wood off at my property and whatever. So I have like these lovely little like cherry rounds. So these are really cute for
Oh,
like,
those are beautiful.
aren't those lovely? So they're nice, like thick, just, oh, that's the wrong side. There we go. That's the side I've sanded. There we go. Yeah, so just like cute little like rusticy pieces, and cherry wood burns beautifully. I love burning on cherry. So I'll source a lot of cherry locally actually. So yeah, like they're all just unique and like super cute. And like that one has moss on it, like rah, right?
So what do you use those ones for?
Those are Christmas ornaments. So those ones were ones I
Okay.
was going to do this year and then just didn't end up needing. So I'll just keep those and then use them for next year. And I'll do different West Coasty little, I do like snowmen and gnomes and all that kind of fun stuff. And with the cherry, it goes nice and deep and rich once you finish it. So it's super beautiful.
And I saw that you did a bunch of like family snowmen.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Snow people
I turned
ornaments.
so many like families into, it was so hilarious, into gnomes and penguins. Penguins were super popular this year. It's so funny, the things, because last year it was gnomes, sold out of gnomes, made so many gnomes. This year I guess so 2 years ago was gnomes. This last year, I ended up with a lot of gnomes left over, which is fine because I'll use them for this coming year. But penguins, people loved little penguins. I made so many penguins, like penguin families. And I loved it when a family was like expecting a baby. So like the mom was pregnant. So I could do like a little penguin egg. And so cute. And
do you make a whole bunch of them and then put names on afterwards, or do you wait for
I'll design
the
them to the
requests?
family. Yeah, no, I'll design them so they're like custom family portraits in like a penguin. So
a penguin or a gnome.
yeah, or whatever they want, right? So yeah, I'll find out, okay, well, which, older boy, younger girl. So I'll like make all the little things accordingly and all that fun stuff. So, which is what I love to do, because I've learned that I don't love stocking stores for my wood burning, because it's just doing the same design over and over and over and over again is just not my jam. So there's other people who in my local area, there's not a ton of wood burners, but there's a couple who they do that and they do it well. And, I'm imagining they enjoy it more than I do. And so that's a happier thing. So I've got a couple stores that I'll stock, but I don't love doing the same design over and over and over and over and over and over again. So having those little nuances from family to family keeps, even though it's the same design concept, and I can do them pretty quick because, you just get used to doing whatever. Having the nuances from family to family keeps it interesting. And so I really love doing those. They're so fun.
They were so cute. I saw that one. I saw at least one of them with the egg and I was like, oh, that's so perfect. So precious.
Right. Yeah. So they want to get another one done this year to like update their family. Right. So now like the egg is hatched, right? So it's super fun.
That's cool. And those are just little ones, so they don't take a super long time to burn.
Take a long time. No, and they're fun. They're just fun little, like they're not technically difficult. It's not the same level of difficulty as like, I don't know if you saw, I posted my most recent pet portrait larger piece with like the woman and the dog kind of like up on her chest sort of thing in the forest. And so like there's pieces that require greater technical skill that are more stressful because you don't like, there's more room for error in them. But those portraits they're just fun. They're just fun.
And how much of your work ends up being commissioned and how much of it is stuff that where you get to kind of decide?
That's another reason why I don't tend to stock stores, is because I don't have time to make things that are outside of commissions. Like most of my things are, I usually go from commission piece to commission piece to commission piece. And then I try and squeak in, if I'm preparing for some art shows, which I do a few, I don't do many because they're stressful to prepare for and make all the things for. I'll squeak in those things in between. But I'd say about at least 75-25% is commission to just things that I just make.
So that probably keeps you pretty busy between that and the kids.
Yeah, it does. And that was the kind of the hope, because I had a really stressful healthcare career for about 12 years. And that was just becoming a bit unmanageable to balance that with the, developmentally appropriate demands of my kids, right? I'd come home and they
Yeah.
would need things. And I'd be like, why do you need things from me? Oh, right, you're four, and you probably should need things from me, right? Oh, right. And it was just like I just didn't have it in me to mom after, trying to support people who were suicidal and all these, in extreme trauma states throughout the day. And so it was just too much.
Where you'd been like caring for other people, and then you came home and you had to keep caring for
Yeah,
people.
and there was not enough. And I'd burn and do self-carry things, and I was going to the gym and eating well, and like I do all the things, but there was just too much outpouring, and there was not enough ability to replenish. And then I noticed I was yelling a lot more. And I'm like, okay, there's going to be some yelling component to parenting because that's just like how it goes. But the ratio of yelling to not yelling is really getting out of proportion into like unhealthy ways here. So it was just kind of signs of I needed to change. So about a year ago, stepped out of healthcare, and then gradually kind of had to titrate that down. Um, but then, yeah, I was able to build up my art and tea so that I am busy enough to be able to maintain this. And I think I'm a better version of myself because of it, which is kind of, I think, the goal, hopefully, to try and be our
Yeah,
best versions
hopefully.
of self, whatever that shakes out to. But I think I'm a better version of myself now, which is kind of a nice thing.
And less stressful, and just easier to be gentle with
Yeah.
yourself and with everything, every other aspect of your life.
Yeah. And like sometimes I have those moments of, what did you do today? Well, what did I do? I like burned an octopus, like that took 5 hours. So I have like maybe those more like existential, like, what am I doing with my life sort of, because we have those, I think, societal pressures to, be contributing members of society and, da 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 da. And there's a certain amount of, I found identity shifting going from a healthcare career where, I'm a this and I'm doing good in the world. And like it was very concrete and like obvious. And then shifting into more, ambiguous entrepreneurial, endeavors, there's an identity shift that came with that. So a lot of that was I had to work through, I guess, my own standards of what is good in my life and what I want in my life, as opposed to external standards of what you should be doing, right? Those shoulds that cause way more problems than are ever helpful. Um, and that it is okay that I just burned an octopus for 5 hours. Like, that's okay that I did that. Like, I always think like,
That's amazing.
right? That's amazing that I burned an octopus. So,
And everybody working in healthcare, in that old profession, is probably sitting there going, I wish I had spent the whole day burning an octopus.
well, I hope not everyone, because we need healthcare people to keep doing their jobs
Absolutely.
too.
Yes.
I just did my stint for 12 years, so I feel like I deserve a bit of a shifting in my life. So, so yeah, now I art and IT, and I just had to kind of work through that. It's okay that that's my job now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and you've mentioned it a little bit here, but you've got Honeybeezigns, which is your wood burning, and then you're also the little tea peddler.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're creating teas and custom teas and things like that.
And so it's another way to be creative, and just as a business adjunct to the wood burning, which is a pretty slow art form. I'm not just, whipping off pieces after piece after piece. As you know, it takes a long time. So to have a consumable product that is far quicker to replenish at higher volumes is a really great offset to the wood burning. If I'm doing markets, I'll often do both, and people are used to me just being both. So I'll just show up with like an assortment of things, and it's just Meghan doing whatever she's doing over there. So so that's worked out real great because I'm the person behind both businesses. So it hasn't come into an issue with market operators because it's not like two people that are sharing a booth, right? Like I'm the same human. I'm just combining both.
Selling
ventures.
two different products.
Yeah. So it's worked out super great. And it's just it's just different. It's fun and it's creative in other ways, which is always nice. And yeah, and tea is awesome. So
it is. It's the best.
It is the best.
Yeah. So how do you, I mean, between the kind of creating the tea idea and the burners, wood burning, what inspires you, or what gets, where do you get your ideas for projects?
Well, a lot of my ideas for the wood burning comes from commission pieces. And that's one of the things I really like about commissions is it gets me doing things I wouldn't necessarily think to do myself. So that's super neat. I'm also, I think we mentioned, very just inspired by nature. And I've been fortunate to grow some relationships with some really awesome photographers. And so when they post a photo,
you can get the reference photos.
Yeah, that I can use a reference photo. And I really like that snake. Can I burn your snake? And they're like, oh yeah, right. So, I've made some really great relationships with photographers. And so that's been awesome. Sometimes I don't know, just like trucking along, an idea will pop in your head. And so I find that happens to me sometimes too. It's like a little download. But a lot of nature, right? Being, like I find I'm a really big multitasker. So has its pros and cons. So I'll be doing something and then my mind will also be like thinking about, different project ideas and stuff, which then I think increases my klutziness in the world, because then I'll like trip over a table or something, right? Because I'm not actually paying attention to what I'm doing. But it also helps because then I'll solve, how am I going to do this in a piece? And I'll just kind of be like spinning on that, and then I'll figure it out while I'm living my life. But then, like I said, I'll like fall over a table or something because I don't actually see that table as I'm walking by it, because I'm thinking about this and I'm doing this, and then I don't see that, right? So pros and cons.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What kind of tools do you like to use?
I'm a razor tip fan. So I started off with the walnut hollow Versa, as I think many of us have done. And that was great. I think it's a really good learning tool. And you can also do a lot with it. Like there's a couple artists who do bananas things with like, I don't want to say overly clunky tool, but a clunkier tool in comparison to some of the other alternatives, right? And they can do some crazy things. So yeah, I started off with that and then went to a razor tip, the SSD10 model.
Okay.
And then I shift it over here. Got the razor tip SL3. So that's this guy here. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. There we go. That guy. So it's the newer one with the bears on it, if you're wondering. And it's great. It gets stuff a lot hotter than their SSD10 model. And so that I find really helpful. I still wouldn't say I crank that sucker too high, because I don't like to get scorch marks. I don't tend to burn at a high heat a lot of time. But there's definitely been some projects where I wanted to and couldn't get hot enough on the SSD10 model. So this one certainly gets hotter, which is nice.
Sure. And then we talked a little bit about colors and finishes that you use. What kind of surfaces do you like to burn on? You talked a little bit about you've been burning on birch and cherry.
So cherry, maple, basswood, birch, plywood, not birch rounds. I hate birch rounds. They're horrible. They're like so
What's
brutal.
The difference?
It's just how it's cut. Jen at North Star Pyrography would be a better source. You might have even talked to her about that already, about the difference between those two, but just how it's cut lengthwise versus like roundwise. I don't have the language correct on that one, but the way that the grain goes, it's far less, it's softer, I find, one way versus the other way. So a birch round can be quite hard and harder to get detail, slower burning, and just irritating. But birch plywood is great for, again, whatever wood science reason. But yeah, I'd say that maple, cherry are my favorite local wood options. What else I like? Arbutus is lovely too. I don't know if you have arbutus where you are. Arbutus burns really nice too. It's hardwood, so it burns slowly. But it's a beautiful wood as well. Um, that's about it locally. That's probably about it, honestly, that I would seek out actively. We have a lot of pine and cedar here, which are like such jerks. I hate those woods so much. They're like anything but like throwing on an actual fire. I've had to do a few things on there. Just like I hate life the whole time I'm using them. Just like it's the worst. But yeah, so I definitely don't gravitate towards those ones. So yeah, probably maple and cherry are my favorite locally. And then the basswood and birch ply. And then actually the aspen from Aspen Rustic Creations are also really great. The sourwood from Rustic Wood Supply has its pros and cons. I tend to do most of my pet portrait ornaments on it because they cut it thin enough that I can send it shipping wise for the cheaper shipping fee. Most of the other wood rounds are too thick to fit through. We call it like the slot of doom, right? So here in Canada, I don't know if it's the same thing in the States, but if it doesn't fit through this like little slot of like size requirements or whatever, then it's like an extra $10 to ship the thing. So I try and like get it through that tiny little slot, which the rest of the size I know like consistently fits through that little thing.
That's cool.
Right? Secrets of the trade, right? You just figure out your
absolutely, yeah. You figure out what works and how to make it work best for you.
The basswood rounds, the ornament rounds from Walnut Hollow do potentially, it depends on how well you wrap them around there and how willing the postal worker is to like cram it through the slot. So there's more variables with that particular situation.
Yeah, that I can see how that can make or break a project or a cost.
It's only if, like, usually I can estimate. I mean, that's where I think a lot of, and again, it might be different in the States, but it is a pretty big factor in if you're going to lose money essentially on a project, is if you don't estimate the shipping properly. So you just want to get that sorted out, or else you could be out some money that otherwise you wouldn't have.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the pricing is always a sticking point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Pricing. That's been like a learning curve over the years for sure.
To make sure that you're not in that situation of losing money.
Yeah. And also just like valuing your work too. I mean, that's the other thing. Valuing and pricing accordingly is definitely been a learning curve.
For sure. What's happening in the background when you're creating?
It's so funny. I've never really, ironically, because we're having this conversation right now, I've never really gone into podcasts and just strictly auditory things. I should get into it more because it would help for like driving and stuff too. But I like having a visual component, even if I'm not watching it. So I'll just watch, I'll go binge whatever, usually lighthearted comedy, right? I'll like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'll do like The Office again, I'm going through Superstore
for the millionth time.
Right, the millionth time. I'm watching Superstore for the first time right now. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen that one.
It's actually funny because I remember I tried it a while ago and I was like, that's stupid. But you just need to push through like most shows, right? You push through,
like most shows, you got to get through that first
season for them to figure things out. And actually, it's quite hilarious. So I'm on that right now. So I'll kind of rotate through. More just like lighthearted things you don't have to pay attention to closely, right? So it is more background noise, but yeah, usually some series of some kind I'll have playing in the background.
That beats listening to children screaming.
Yeah, well, I only tend to do this when the kids are not around because it's just not a compatible anything but momming is not usually a compatible activity. Although they do like helping with the tea because I use a vacuum sealer, so they find it hilarious to use that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they love that.
Yes.
They're all over that. And so I'll usually help them. They'll help me with the tea, but they can't really help me with the burning. So I usually
No,
only
not yet.
not yet, not yet. The older three are in school Monday to Friday, and then the youngest is in preschool or at the grandparents Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So those are my primary work days: are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays.
Sure, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, let's take a real quick break here and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
And welcome back. We're here with Meghan from Honeybeezigns. So Meghan, you touched on this a little bit at a couple of times of what you do to take care of yourself and for some self-care. What kind of things are you working on actively right now to take care of yourself amidst the two businesses and the kids?
All the things.
Everything else.
All the things. Well, I try and I'm a gym goer because I like to leave my house and all the things, and then I don't have to do anything but be at the gym. And so I leave my phone in the car. I just am there. So that's probably the only time in my day that that I don't have various inputs, right? So like sensory things are at a relative minimal, quantity. And I go at dark o'clock in the morning. So I'm there for like 5. And so it's quieter. And so that's definitely been something that's been critical to me starting my day off well. So that, what else do I do? Well, I try and sit down with a tea at some point in my day for at least, 5 minutes, which really doesn't sound like a lot of time, but sometimes that's all I need to stop the like next thing that my brain can do and body can do and life can do. So yeah, I sit down usually, it's my afternoon tea time usually. When the kiddos are home from school and they've had busy days, so they're just they just retreat like trolls into our downstairs and they're watching whatever they need to decompress after their busy day at school. And my oldest is usually sitting up on the couch because he doesn't like the baby show, so he's usually upstairs. And so I'll take my Tina to sit with him and just like sit for 5 minutes before rush into the dinner and the bedtime routine and all of that stuff. So that's pretty important. I'm really fortunate to live where there are trees everywhere. So I make sure to get outside and notice that, the air is fresh out here. Use like little breaks, I guess, mentally, from, like I said, the next thing that we can get swept up in. I think having really good community supports is also really important for my self-care. So I'm really fortunate to have made a lot of really great pyro friends and different, small shop maker creative friends. And so just having those connections, I find really balancing in my life. And, so that's been great. I think social media has the potential to be extremely negative and, filled with all sorts of not so great things. And I also think it can be a super positive, awesome experience if curated intentionally, right? So, I scan through every once in a while, like, who am I following these days? Because Instagram is showing me no one. Why are all my friends, So I'll like scan through and just make sure, like, who have I not seen their stuff in a while? I have like a fair number of people that I'm following, but I know them all, like to some degree or another. Like I know when I see that name, I know what they do, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's important, to curate my social media feed with intentionality, because then every time I go on there, it's not bad stuff. It's only good stuff. I'm like, oh, that's what this person did. And oh, I love that. And oh, this person's so great. Right. So So that's a big part of my self-care, I think, is just being intentional with what I'm getting
And
exposed to.
with that social media, also not letting the comparison bug sneak in there.
Yeah. Well, that took like, I don't know, 4 years of therapy to sort myself out for that whole thing. So like that was like not maybe the easiest hurdle to get over because our society is primed to compare. Right? Like we're always like looking
Yeah.
for the next better thing and oh, this person's better over here and buy this product because your life will be better, right? So there's so many aspects of our society that just prime us from such early ages to compare ourselves to other people. And we never come out on the positive side of that comparison. We're always less than, so then we're striving to be better than, and then that's a vicious cycle. So um yeah, I think, there's nothing wrong with looking at what other people have and then thinking, okay, I really like that. What about that do I like? Well, I like that about this. So how can I get more of that in my life? Right? So you can look and see what other people have. That's not necessarily about, or what other people are doing. That's not a bad thing. But it's see, how can I take, like, what is it about that that appeals to me? And then how can I make that more me in my life, right? What's my spin on that? How can that show up in my life more? And then it's not about comparison anymore. It's just about life, expansion or turning it into what we want it to be. So yeah, I think my
Brilliant.
social, what's that?
That's brilliant. I love that. I'm going to listen to this part over and over and over.
Preach, right? She's on a tear now. But yeah, I don't know. So it doesn't have to be a comparison thing. It can just be a source of inspiration. And then how can I apply that in my life? So I guess for me, because I've, intentionally made it so, my social media is actually quite grounding and quite balancing and self-carey because I don't have room for crap that isn't. So I just don't. There's no room for that. There's no time for that. So yeah, but that, like I said, that's been like a life process of coming to that point. Also, I think something just magical happens after you pass like 35, where just like, I don't care about the things anymore. I'm just going to do the like my thing. And then it just all works out. So plus, like, as I said,
there is something about getting to that point where you're like, I got the confidence. I can do this. I can do me now.
Yeah. And then like, prequel of like 4+ years of therapy to sort through out all the other things that were getting in the way. Right. But, like whatever.
Therapy's always good.
Whatever. Right. But yeah, so I'd say those are the main things. Yeah, I'd say those are the main things I do for self-care.
Those are great things for sure. We're going to shift gears here a little bit and play my favorite game on Peak Pyrography, and that is the Deserted Island.
So, nice.
I'm going to ask you as a wood burner, or as Meghan, if you are on a deserted island, and you're left there with one type of wood, one burner, one nib, and then one extra item, what would those things be? So we'll start with what kind of wood are you burning on?
Okay, I would probably pick basswood because it's the most versatile, I would say. So I'm going to go with that. So I'll go with basswood for wood.
And then a burner?
My razor tip, whatever it is, SL3. That's the one.
And then what kind of nib would you be using?
Okay, I would probably use, I'm going to switch over here. So I'm terrible at remembering what they're called, but I feel like it's the small shader. I'm trying to bring it up to the...
Yeah.
Hey, yep. Look at me go. I did that in like an actual fluid motion. Look at that. So this guy, so it's like flat on the bottom and then roundy on the tippy top there. And I do most with this, and then I have a bigger version of that one. So same idea, flat and then round on the top. But I would probably bring the little one because it's the most, like the bigger pieces would be a pain in the butt to do with this, but I can do all things with this one. So that, whatever that is called.
But if you only had one, that's the one.
If I had to pick one, it would be whatever this is called, which I can't actually remember, but this in my hand right now.
It's little
which
spoon
is actually
shader.
burnt. Oh my gosh, I'm noticing that right now. There's like a burn mark on there where I burnt it with something else. So that's fun.
And then what would be one extra item that you would take with you?
Oh, aside from gin, because if I'm on a desert island by myself, I need to have a nice gin with me. What would I take? My dog. If I can, like, obviously, like, you take your family and your kids and all that stuff. Like, obviously, if we take that out of the equation, I take my dog.
Right.
I miss my dog. Oh, Roxy. I'd have to take my dog with me.
Perfect. Perfect. And then I like to have a moment here of shout outs and communities. So, who are 3 accounts that you think everybody should be following?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean,
And this could be wood burners or non wood burners, kind of up to
yeah,
you.
I think that this, like, oh man, I would encourage following, I don't even know. There's so many. And that's kind of goes back to my like rant, rabbit traily rant about the intentionally curating your social media feed for it to be the things that uplift you, right? And so having that
Absolutely.
be
Yeah.
things, I would say like wood burning and art related, but also outside of that. Like I love following Charles Mackesy. He's this artist out of the UK who does it's like the boy, the mole, and the horse or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but his stuff is just so like genuine and uplifting and just lovely. Um, so that's a huge, big fan for, I love him. And yeah, just things that are outside of art. So, I mean, I don't know what else other than that. Yeah, things that are just outside of art and get you thinking outside of yourself and out of, the little sphere that we can tend to live in. So whatever pulls us out of that, I encourage more of that, because if we get too pigeonholy, I think on, only seeing wood burners or only seeing like one thing, then I think we lose potential inspiration sources. So
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And do you have one tip or trick that you think is super valuable and everybody should know?
I mean, the biggest one, I mean, is sand your wood, no matter what it is, sand it. Because I look back at some of my like first pieces, which are always garbage. Oh my gosh, it's one of my biggest encouragements to new wood burners.
That
You're gonna
they were
you're gonna
like, you were
suck.
so proud of them. They were like the
You were
best
so proud of
pieces because
them. Oh
they're
my
the
gosh. Like, you give them to your family for Christmas and they're like, thanks. And it's like this piece of crap. And like in the retrospect, it's like, and I pulled out, oh my gosh, it was so funny for Christmas. When we were playing with the Christmas decorations, I pulled out some of the old ones that I had done, like the first ones. Didn't sand the wood. I didn't even erase the freaking pencil off of the wood. So it's like, you can still see the stupid pencil on, like, oh, it was so bad. I don't think I finished them. It was just like a mess. So I guess from that, like, growth is always possible. So your first pieces are going to suck, and that's okay. Like, accept that now.
that's what you have to start there.
Yeah, you
Everyone
have to
started
start at
there.
suck, and then you can only improve from the level of suck. You can only get better from there. So I guess that's it. Like, be patient with your learning process, because there's a learning curve to everything. And wood burning, there's a big one. So be patient with your process. You can only get better. And sand your friggin' wood would be probably my 2 points of encouragement.
Yes. Very, very good. Both of those are very valuable. what what big things do you have coming up? Are there any journeys that we can follow you on? I know that in the fall you've been a co-host for the Shades of Autumn Challenge.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing, okay, there's a couple of things. I'm going to be doing the Save the Bees art challenge again with Betsy at Betsy Bee Studios and at Jen Diorenzo. And there's like a whole crew of us that are doing it. It's super fun. So that's coming up in June. And so that's a 5-week challenge. We've got a bunch of different like sponsors for the weeks and all sorts of fun giveaways, and that's going to be a really fun challenge. So each week is themed by one bee pollinator. So you've got your bees, your butterflies, your birds, your bats, and your other bugs. And so each one of us, there's 5 of us, take a week to co-host and do like facts and learning and raise awareness for pollinators and all sorts of fun stuff. So that's coming up in June, which will be super fun. And then art shows in the summer probably. And then, yeah, I imagine Elena and I at Sweet Peach will be doing Shades of Autumn. She's far more the like organized part of our dynamic duo. She'll be like, Megan, we need to talk about this. And I'm like, okay. And so she definitely initiates that organization process. But yeah, I'd imagine we'd be doing that in the fall again because that's super fun. Yeah, I think those are the main things.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch those and follow you and see more stuff that you're creating.
Thanks.
I always love seeing your pieces.
Aw, thanks, friend.
And thank you for coming on today.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It was super fun.
This has been really fun. I'm happy to have this time to chat with you and to see your face. And,
oh, yeah, me too.
It's so nice to go a little bit deeper with you than you can see in Instagram stories or posts.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, thanks again for having me. It's been super neat.
All right, well, thank you. Peak Pyrography is produced by Fedde Studios and Justine Fedde. Our producer and sound engineer is Kevin Fedde. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can share your comments on today's podcast or suggestions for the future on Instagram at Peak Pyro Podcast or via email at peakpyrography@gmail.com. That's PEAKPYROGRAPHY@gmail.com. Until next time, keep creating. I can't wait to see what you make next.